Okay, I'm just going to talk about the structure of the philosophy first and later I'm going to talk about how this is relates to like how pop art or pop culture can influence artists to create new art. Um, and these slides are based on the books we read in Ben's lecture. So the first is based on these notes are based on the introduction on Alain Badiou's philosophy. And yeah, the first slide I'm just going to start from what is being. So Badiou thinks being is very close to the word entity or object, and he wants to use the term situation instead um, to describe being. So situation is includes like everything happens in that situation, like events or the weather, just everything. And situation, it means presented multiplicity. So um, Badiou doesn't think there is a unity that includes everything. So there is no universe. Normally, like classical ontology, when they think about the being, they will think there is a universe or there is a God. But Badiou doesn't think there is a unity like that. But of course, it does. The situation do have unity, but it's more like a temporary unity. It only happens when we count for one. So what count for one means, for example, me, myself, this present, I count for one, and this is me. However, when I was, for example, last second, and I'm still me, but my elements, my cells are actually dying every second. And so this entity, every second is actually consists of different elements in this situation. So the second I didn't do this count for one procedure, it's very like inconsistent. Only it's become consistent when I count for one, I say, okay, this is me. And so count for one is the structure of the situation. It decides what belongs to this situation and what doesn't belong to this situation. And Badiou doesn't think there is agents who perform this procedure. So, for example, as a kind of classical ontology, they think there is a God to say what is this and what's the reason for existence, or there is a history that everything happens in the past makes what happens in the future. But for Badiou, there is no such agent. And so situation before the count for one is inconsistent multiplicity, and situation after the count for one is consistent multiplicity. And the example for inconsistent multiplicity is the human body, as I mentioned before, that my bones, my muscles, my blood, each of these elements is not unique, which belongs to me. Like these elements can be changed to, like the old blood can be exchanged by new blood, but I still think this is me. So this human body myself is inconsistent multiplicity. And then we're going to talk about set theory, mathematics. So Badiou thinks that mathematics is ontology because in his philosophy there is no unity, right? So every element essentially consists of other elements, and other elements consist of other elements. However, language can't do that. If we say an apple, we already count for one. This is an apple, and we want to break it down. This part of apple, and it already consists of other like smaller elements. So language just makes it very messy, and only math can do that. So the set theory can do this because a set consists of elements, and set and the elements are no different, because a set can elements can also be a set. And there is no ultimate set that includes everything, because that will disobey the foundation of set theory, that a set can't include itself as a set. Yeah, I'm just going to like skip a lot of like the math stuff. I'm just going to talk talk about like what is important about for the philosophy. So there is a one concept in his theory that is very important. Is called void. So the void is the null set, and the void is very important because every situation is essentially based on the void. So for example, when we count for one, we also discount something else, and that something else is the void. So without the void, the situation can't exist. However, when we see the situation, the counts for both count for one and void are not presented in the situation, because if we want to know what we exactly has counted, we also have to know what is excluded. However, we never can know like the void. The void is just something totally out there. We can't grasp that. It's just totally it's there, but it's excluded by us. It is not discovered by us yet. So in set theory, the null sets represent the void, and the void is related to what I'm going to talk about later. And another set that is quite important is power set. So power set is the state of the situation. So what power set means is it's a set of all the subsets of the initial set. So for example, in this room is a big set, right? And then the subset is, for example, me and this mouth is one subset. Me and this computer is one subset. Power set is a set of all these subsets. So it's essentially its relationship between the elements. So everything, the elements are counted for one twice. The first time it's counted, it's included in this room. This is the first count for one. And the second one is when it's counted in the powered set, it's counted in the subset. That's the second count for one. And then I'm going to talk about 3 types of multiples and 3 types of situation. And it's going to be important for us to understand how the new things or political transformation can be made. So there are 3 types of multiples. The first type is normal multiples, which is counted for one twice, as what I mentioned before. So counted as in initial set and also counted in the power set. Second is excrescent multiples. It's only represented by the state. So we only can find this, like its relationship with other things in the situation, but we can't really see it in the whole situation, like in the room situation. And the singular multiple is very important. It's only at the level of presentation. What it means is it's inside the room, it's there, but we are not really recognize it. So it's kind of hard to explain it. So the singular multiple means that the elements belong to the initial set, but the elements doesn't belong to the subset. So when we try to find the relationship between this multiple and other things, we can't find it, but it's there, it's in the room. And there are three types of situations. The first type is natural situation, which doesn't include any singular multiples. So everything in that situation we can know, and we already know, and there is nothing new will happen. So example for this is the ecosystem of a pond. So the ecosystem of a pond, that's what the fish eats belongs to the ecosystem, this big set. But it also belongs to the subset of each fish. So like nothing new in the pond, this whole set will happen. And the neutral situation is it has all three types of multiples. And the third one, historical situation, is the most important one. It has at least one eventual site. And eventual site is an extreme variety of singular multiples. So none of the elements of eventual sites belongs to the initial set. And so the example for this, which will make it easier to be understood, is, for example, we ask the question, what it is to be Australian? And in this question, like it can have a lot of answers. What it is to be Australia in like the nationalist concern. However, Aboriginals are the eventual side, because how Australian this country is founded is based on they exclude the indigenous people. So when you ask indigenous people, okay, what it is to be Australia, it's just they can't answer this question, because their relationship to this land is just different from, it's not Australian, the nationalist concern. So however, the indigenous people, they do exist in Australia. So they exist in that big set, but we can't really see their relationship with this question. They are like excluded from that. So this is of Aboriginals is the eventual site. So historical situation makes it possible to have political transformation, but only have eventual site is not enough. We also need to have events for the change to happen. But for the events to happen like this, there is something that needs to be recognized by people, then is able to make transformation. And also the Badiou mentions about a generic truth procedure, which means that people are trying to do a series of inquiries or investigation about the current situation to find this event or eventual site. And then there is a concept called a generic set, I think, which is similar to the void, the concept of the void. So what does this mean? The generic set means is that everything in a set or in a situation can be identified by language, but we can't use language to describe or discern a generic set at all. So a generic set is just essentially something totally new that we can't really describe. We can't use the old language to tell what it is. For example, in a colonial situation, there is some decolonization process. So in that kind of situation, people don't have any language to describe what that is. They don't have the term decolonization, but yeah, it's there. And the procedure of forcing is a concept brought by a mathematician to prove the existence of the generic set. There is a method that we try to form a new set, and my understanding of this is that, for example, before we don't have the concept of site specificity, so we only have word site and specific. But then we start to develop to call this work as, oh, it's site specific. And then it's become something new because we try to use something already existed in our old language to define these new things. And then I'm going to talk about the Duchamp's fountain, how it relates to Badiou's philosophy. And this is based on the Alex Ling's essay called The Shock of the New. So Duchamp's The Non-Exhibition of Fountain is an event. The fountain, the original fountain, was refused by the group of artists. And why it is an event is that it's transformed the whole world of art, and it's an eventual site. And also, yeah, I'm just going to skip that because it's related to too much with math. So what's the reason that those group of artists refuses to exhibit? Is based on two reasons. First, the artist didn't make this work himself. And second, it's not a unique work. So there are a lot of other copies of this. And yeah, the artist didn't manufacture these urinals. So if they were to accept this work, this ready-made, the definition of art would be totally transformed. And it was quite funny that they call themselves I think it's called Independent Society of Artists. However, what they did is not independent at all. They still have that kind of old definition of art, what art should be, and they think, okay, this is not match the definition of art. So this ready-made reveals an important truth that any works of art is actually based on non-art, because even with painting or sculpture, every of this artwork is based on non-artistic materials, such as canvas or paint, which is already ready-made. And so it's just demonstrate how thin line it is between art and non-art. And this event of this fountain just make something, these elements we didn't realize before, make it from the level of non-presentation to the level of representation. So yeah, this ready-made, it's just doesn't belong to either category at that time. It doesn't belong to the world of art. It doesn't belong to everyday objects. It kind of goes two ways, which is opposing each other. It's both art and non-art. And then it makes us question, so what it is art? And so this kind of impurity that the Duchamp's fountain brings is what Badiou said, the real of art comprises an ideal impurity. So what does this mean is that the he thinks that the real art should have bring this impurity And then there is a procedure of purification of art, which means it's a creative movement or destructive gesture to purify the impurities. So the impurity is the blurry boundary between art and non-art, right? And then purification of that is to bring the new definition of what art it is. And for Badiou, he thinks that the real art will affect philosophy. And so he doesn't think the traditional aesthetics do anything because they're just like purely hierarchies of taste. But true art brings the truth. And philosophy's function is just to collect this truth and try to find connections between them and try to bring them to the system of philosophy. So true art basically is to try to pursue the truth, and truth is never fixed because truth is in the void. The void as a concept I talked about before, that something is out there but can't be grasped by human. But we are trying to, in each artwork we make is an investigation of that. It's trying to cross the boundary and to explore the truth. And yeah, so after the ready-made event happened, the artwork can be considered, can enter the everyday life. It can be used by people, but also at the same time, non-art can also have the potential to be art. So they become equal now. Art can be non-art, non-art also can be art. And then in the end, Alex Ling he concluded that all art has its roots in non-art, and there is no miracle because the event happens, it's rooted in everyday life. And the event is nothing other than the spontaneous revelation of what was there all along. So the truth is in our everyday life, it's just not being discovered yet. And I just thought that this is quite relevant to what I experienced in my work. Just a lot of things you can't really define as very clearly by language. And I think that is exactly what Badiou said, that the generic set is something you can't really identify with language, and that is something possibly can be an event. For example, that's like a lot of things. For example, the white pube. Can you call that as art or is non-art? And by asking that question, is the boundaries already being blurred and the definition, the essence of art is questioned. And I have like several examples of things I found on internet that I feel kind of related to this. And I'm going to just, I think I'm going to share the link in the chat box actually, because it's has the voice and yeah.
Could you
So the first
try screen sharing?
Oh yeah, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm just going to play it then.
I think if you don't use the like headphone, you can actually, if you play the sound from your
right, okay.
computer speaker, it can, yeah.
I'm going to disable my headphone first. Okay.
Just for the recording, I think it would be better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to play this.
headquarters, research has been proceeding to develop a line of automation products that establishes standards for
Can you hear it?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay.
quality, technological leadership, and operating excellence. With customer success as our primary focus, work has been proceeding on the crudely conceived idea of an instrument that would not only provide inverse reactive current for use in unilateral phase detractors, but would also be capable of automatically synchronizing cardinal gram meters. Such an instrument comprised of Dodge gears and bearings, Reliance electric motors, Allen Bradley controls, and all monitored by Rockwell software is Rockwell Automation's retroencabulator. Now, basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes, it's produced by the modial interaction of magnetoreluctance and capacitive diractance. The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fam. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus O deltoid type placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator. Every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible Tremi pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the gram meters.
Okay, so what this video about is, I think I don't know if you
What
got
is this?
yeah, right. I had the same reaction. Like, what it talks about, I don't understand. And this is exactly the purpose. That this video is actually based on a joke that firstly published on an engineering magazine, which is just like random things that makes you feel is talking about some products, but it's
So
totally
it's like a bullshit, but
yes,
like
yes.
it's explaining. Okay.
Yeah, like you don't understand what it
Mm.
is about, but you think it's trying to explain something, and you
Mm.
question yourself. I question myself. Am I too dumb? Why didn't I understand it? But this is the purpose.
It's like a
So
performance in a way.
yeah, and they have a lot of different versions of this, and I was just quite surprised on how high quality the production it is. These machines.
It's a very expensive joke to make.
Yeah, it almost looks like a old commercial on to sell this product, and that's why this was so convincing. This was something like serious, but it's not.
So it's from 2008,
Uh
or is it like before that?
I
Because
think
they like downgraded the video quality just to make the joke more
maybe.
interesting, then like
Yeah,
that's a lot of effort.
yeah. There is like there is I think wait, a video of the history about how this whole joke
Mm.
wait, I'm just trying to find
So they also have like a meta explanation of their joke.
oh yeah, history. Yeah, I'm just going to send in the chat. You can watch it after.
All right.
Yeah, okay. And then the second one I'm going to use is this one. I haven't watched the whole video, but I just get to know this video today. But it's quite interesting. So this game is called the Sonic the Hedgehog. This game was like very famous before.
Yeah, I know the characters.
Yeah, it was like as famous as Mario, but then because the game company later they made this game to like become 3D, and the quality just become really bad, and then the fans start to create some very weird fine art like this. You see, the very twisted. So
Like fan art.
yeah,
Okay.
and they create is both because of passion and also resentment about the video game company. And I just find that's very interesting because about the fan culture, and they even use like a lot of the characters in game to make their personal profile, which looks very cringy. Like, yeah, you can search just for example like this. For example, this character is Chen Ling, and my date of birth, my weight, what song I like, that kind of thing, you know. Yeah. And then there is another video that which is happens in real life is I found very interesting. I don't know if you have watched. It's the council meeting. I'm just going to play it.
Hello again.
Hello again. I thought I wasn't going to get in then.
When do we plan to start?
I think we could start any moment, Chairman. I think it's perhaps helpful just to go through the same things as we went through before, which is just to encourage people to switch off their microphones, because it does reduce the background.
Can we be assured that we won't be thrown out of the meeting like we were last time?
As long as we have reasonable behaviour from everyone, no one would be excluded from the meeting.
I was thrown out of the meeting. So was Councillor Burkill, so was Councillor Brewerton. Please let the chairman
Mrs. Weaver, please.
If you disrupt this meeting, I will have to remove you from it.
You can't.
It's only the chairman who can remove people from a meeting. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
She's just kicked him out.
I
Just wait. No, she's kicked him out. Don't. She's kicked him out. Don't.
This is a meeting called by two councillors.
Illegally?
Who may now elect a chairman.
No, they can't because the vice chair's here.
It's like a skit.
Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
Where's the chairman?
We
Read
elect
the standing orders. It now reverts to me.
Where's the chairman gone?
like to elect a chairman for this meeting.
You don't have to elect a chairman. There's a chairman already installed. The chairman of the council.
Councillor Burkle, we've been through this.
What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about.
Could I ask you to be respectful to Jackie Weaver, please?
Jackie Weaver, I find that the person on Alex Brewerton's Zoom is being very disrespectful to everybody.
Oh, coming from you, from Birkenhead, that sounds good.
Wow.
Thank God for that.
Can I propose John Smith, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay. My first point is to apologise to Jackie for welcome to Handforth.
Indeed, it's nothing if not lively in Handforth.
Yes, but what I would say is that it was a very good example of bullying within Cheshire East and the environs.
The chairman simply declared himself clerk and notified everybody of the case, and the remaining members, quite correctly, have refused to recognise that position. But as
so this council meeting, I'm just going to send you guys link if you want to watch the full meeting. And it's this council meeting happens in I think last year December or something, and it's just everyone doesn't really know how to use the technology of Zoom. A lot of old people, and then they just start to fight. It was totally chaos, and I just find that's this kind of thing happening in real life. You can't really.
It's the ultimate, like, COVID soap opera.
You can't really replicate that in art or like reality show, because in real life it just goes very unexpected way. For example, nobody would really expect like the in US, the people going into the Capitol happen. No one expected that, but it's just real life. Sometimes is, I think, is like much more interesting.
Yeah, but like how Duchamp used the unexpected ready-made material, these all happenings and like these situations we're facing are just becoming another type of material for artists to appropriate and like reuse, re-edit. And that's like, if it becomes material for artists, then is it not art? Like that kind of question also kind of occurs to me.
Yeah, and there's like one last example.
Fox News.
Yeah.
Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah,
When Johnny said he needed...
I love that video. That's how the...
This is my favorite.
Yeah, how every station, the news is just scripted. And
we have the same script, yeah.
Yeah, like I was shocked when I saw the video.
It's like a protocol already suggested to all the anchors and like the writer's room.
Yeah, because I thought this only happens like maybe in China, but I didn't know like in Western also the media is how it's so political and yeah.
Imagine making this video with like North Korean news.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my example. I finished.
Thank you, Jiamin. That was so fun. that news piece was like Bruce Nauman, like early video art type of thing. Okay, mine is super short. Mine is just the extension of these examples.
Yeah.
So, okay, you can see the screen now, right?
Yeah.
So this is just another, like the fine line between art and something that's not exactly art, but as good as or sometimes even better than art. So, you know, like how art memes are considered like another type of artwork nowadays. And it sometimes even gets more, you know, like not attention, but what is it? More relatable and more like making jokes about artwork. It's like a meta artwork for artwork. So I think like what these famous art memes accounts are doing these days are like really representational of our contemporary art era.
Mm.
And speaking of memes, I think, like personally, I really like The Office. I think it's like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And what was funny was like how people just use the screenshots and how it's used really differently in every culture. So like the first one on top left is just American, like United States meme, and the bottom right is how Korean people use like the same type of images and put like random just things they want to say with like unrelated things. And it's just saying, although it's quite related, it's just saying in Korean like, I don't want to work, I want to quit my job. That's what it's saying. So it like how people like just randomly borrow these images from its original context and make it into something completely different and make it into sometimes something even better and something more relatable. I think that's like memes traveling all around the globe, translated and intentionally mistranslated and appropriated. It's really, yeah, it was interesting. And this is the video that I showed Shalene like yesterday.
Yeah.
And the reason I chose this specific vlog is my friend, another friend from my BA course in Korea, she and I were talking like how, because she's also done a lot of video works and I usually work with videos. So we were like discussing how we are to survive in this flooding video language words, and like so many people are creating their own videos and making something that's not just pretty or vlogs that don't just use typical vlog language, but creating something so much more creative than like actual video works. It was like very intimidating for us. Like, how are we going to be distinguished from just YouTubers and how are we different and how are we going to incorporate these methods into our own works? And then she showed me this vlog. I'll show you here. Like how it's just like it's called, wait, you don't really have to listen to the sound, but it's just saying like a dog walking healing vlog. And the method it's using, like not just layering effect, but how it deals with this video language for YouTube is very unconventional for me, I think, compared to other vlogs that like a lot of people are usually creating. I highly recommend this channel. I can maybe I'll put the link on the chat as well. Maybe I can try disconnecting this. There's a sound. Yeah, it's just something like this. So yeah, Like I was so impressed to see how diverse the video language is becoming in just like this casual context. And yeah, it was yeah. And then I read this essay by Hitoshi Taro in defense of poor image, and I think it has some relevant point to this, what the line between, like the fine line between art and what is not art. So like the whole poor image has been uploaded, downloaded, shared, reformatted, and re-edited, and it transforms quality into accessibility and exhibition value into cult value, films into clips, and contemplation into distraction. So poor images are poor because they are not assigned any value within the class society of images. Their status as illicit or degraded grants them exemption from its criteria. Their lack of resolution attests to their appropriation and displacement. So like these image qualities and like how big the image is and how clear and high resolution the screen is like a very main main thing when you're showing your image or your video. But mostly in pop culture, like those memes that I showed you and like the vlogs, they are not relying on that, not necessarily relying on that quality of image, but because they give up some part of that, they gain accessibility and cult value and like more effectively distract people from their everyday lives. And so more about poor images. They are thus popular images that can be made and seen by the many. They express all the contradictions of the contemporary crowd. It's opportunism, narcissism, desire for autonomy and creation, its inability to focus or make up its mind, its consistent readiness for transgression and simultaneous submission. So it rather speaks to countless people who cared enough about them to convert them over and over again, to add subtitles, re-edit, or upload them. So the number of how many the image and like the clips are re-edited and re-uploaded, it kind of shows how popular it is in a way. So this like just made me think, would all the artists be happy if their video works are like pirated, downloaded, and re-edited and uploaded in like bunch of different sources? Would it be like a good thing, and would it be something that artists would aim?
That's very interesting. I feel like how I feel like that would be probably only possible if the artist is not going to, doesn't really think about selling the work, because if you're going to sell that work, and how can people collect it, because it's like keep changing, right? And the authorship is essentially kind of distributed to others as well.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. It's like heavily a matter of expectation. Like artists if artists make something that they expect it to be like spread out like rapidly and be copied and like being parodied and everything, if that's what certain artists expect it to be, then it would be successful. But if you want it to be like treated as very like high end gallery material, then that would make it totally different to assess that situation. Yeah,
I feel I have like a theory that, not theory, but just a thought. I feel that maybe how art will evolve in the future is the artwork will not be bought, but it will be invested. As in, for example, it's a company or something like that, and you can buy stocks of that company because it keep evolving and it's keep existing there for generations, or maybe not that long, maybe just for 20 or 30 years. But you can't really buy that work. You only can invest in it. That's kind of my thoughts about.
It's all about like the changing value system.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, well, let's talk about it later.
Yeah.
Because it's recording. So then the paradoxical reversal happens here. So things that are not art forming more effective audience/public, and things that are not art fulfilling original ambition of experimental cinema, things that are not art bringing attention back to art. So, for example, it's not like a contemporary art, but you know, like just like the TV show like The Office, a lot of Korean people have never watched it in their lives before because it's not like a big hit in Korea, but they still know these memes because they're more popular with the memes. So it's like the appropriated image and like parodied image and meme images are bringing the attention, like gaining the recognition back to the original work. So people who sees these Office memes first and then becomes interested in the original TV show, goes to Netflix and finds the show and watch it. Like it's backwards. It's supposed to be the other way around, but it's happening like this a lot these days. Like you see like art memes and there's like an artwork picture in that meme, and you've never seen that work before, but you see the meme and then you search for that artwork. So it's like the way people access the original form of artwork or like a form of shows. It's like
I think the advantage of art existing in that kind of way, for example, in the form of memes or in the form of pop art, the advantage of that is it can reach a lot of people, and it is good if that art, the purpose of that art is to transform the public. Otherwise, it would be the same as pop art, because why the pop art can reach so many people is the goal of it it's very commercial, I guess, to entertain people. But essentially the difference between art and pop art or pop culture is art has a different idea. It could use the same material or same form, but it has to have a different goal. And I do think that using what YouTubers or those people do could be a very effective way to engage the public. And I also think that maybe artists in the future could give up the authorship. I'm not sure, because in that way, like how artists can say you are different from the public, you are more like a person who starts this chain, but maybe people who follow this trend do create even better things than you, and you can't really claim the whole thing is your work, right? And also I think that a lot of things, organizations now and what they do is also like a mix of art and other things like curation or I don't know, like very community healthcare, those things. And how can you say like what's the art in it? Like we always expect artists have something expertise in creating the artwork, or artists should be different. But I feel maybe
becoming more and more unprofessional, isn't it?
I think you can't say it's unprofessional, but you should. But we can say this is artists start to use all disciplines, the knowledge from all disciplines to make the artwork. It's of course it can be what on the one hand you can say artists now are de-skilled. We don't have skills anymore, but on the other hand you also can say now we have skills from all over the world. It brings everything together.
I think I just have like a big imposter syndrome. Like I'm like fraud. I don't have any skills, but I'm just saying I'm an artist. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just.
I think because what differentiates art and other things is art has the concept, and I think that's the most important.
Yeah, that's what makes it so important for artists nowadays to promote themselves, like, because before this, people, even though people know the works, a lot of people didn't know like what the artist looked like, like where that artist is from. But now, because of that de-skill Ling and like multidisciplinary and in a way like a bit unprofessional, that makes it more and more important for artists themselves to be much more present along with their artwork. So like people using Instagram, for example, they promote themselves in Instagram, not just their artworks, but like process, like their own presence with the artworks and all this stuff.
Do you think that making the public to know more about the artist would help them to understand the artwork, or it doesn't have much relationships with the artwork?
I think whether we want it or not, it has just become really important to like because a lot of our artworks deal with identities nowadays, and I don't know, just like the way gallery promotes the exhibition, the way like the press deals with the works, deals with the artists. I'm just like realizing how it's becoming more and more important, like the presence of artists itself, not just the artworks.
I think there are two aspects in it. One is that if we want to know, for example, to understand more deeply about the artist's artwork, and to know, of course, to know his or her the life would be helpful to, and to know their past practices and how does that connect to the current. However, if it's, for example, this artwork is a group project or organization, for example, the organization which explores about the forensic architecture, then in that particular organization, I don't think we have the need to know the artist, because it's more about like the group work.